Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader and today we'll be focusing on the presidential activities for today and President Abdel Fattah Sisi heading for France. And we will be meeting President Abdel Fattah Sisi will be meeting the French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Paris. We will be discussing the possible agenda of talks between the two presidents and the visions between Egypt and France in different fields, more specifically regarding the Middle East and the Eastern Mediterranean. And tonight I'm honored to be having with me in the studio to be shedding more light on the visit and the meeting between President Abdel Fattah Sisi and the French President is Dr. Cherif AMIR, the Professor of International Relations. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Anytime. We will be starting with a report about the visit of President Abdel Fattah Sisi on Sunday and the future meeting of President Sisi with the French counterpart Emmanuel Macron.
President Abdel Fattah Sisi is visiting the French capital, Paris, for a three-day official visit where he is accompanied by a high-level delegation and is set to meet his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron and other top French officials. The discussions of President Sisi and Macron on Monday are expected to tackle bilateral cooperation and regional and international issues of mutual concern. Recent tensions in the East Mediterranean, the Libyan and Syrian crises, counter-terrorism as well as reviving the Middle East peace process are among issues that are also expected to be addressed. Egypt and France enjoy close, friendly relations which have been enhanced in recent years. The two countries are keen on bolstering bilateral cooperation on economic, political and cultural levels. France is a very important economic partner to Egypt, with the country having pumped 5 billion euros in current investments in the country. The trade exchange between the two sides have reached 3 billion euros. The two states are also working on enhancing cooperation in several communications and information technology fields. This is focusing in particular on capacity building, providing support for entrepreneurs, as well as research and development in the field of artificial intelligence. Over the past 4 years, mutual visits conducted by the two countries' heads and top officials have been intensified. The most recent visits were in 2019, with President Macron paying a visit to Egypt in January 2019, and in August 2019, President Sisi paid a return visit to France to participate in a Group of 7 summit. On the military level, the armed forces of both Egypt and France regularly conduct joint maritime drills in the Mediterranean Sea, with an aim to exchange expertise, confront threats and maintain maritime security. Earlier in November, French Minister of Foreign Affairs Jean-Yves Le Drian visited Cairo and met with President Sisi and his counterpart Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate, and that was a report about the visit of President Abdel Fattah Sisi to France and the future meeting between President Sisi and the French President Emmanuel Macron, among other top officials in France. Dr. Cherif AMIR is here with me tonight, and I'll be asking you first about the strategic importance of such a visit.
Well, it's obvious, as it was said in the report, that things are not going very well in the Eastern Mediterranean. I think that Egypt and France are now concerned about what is going on by the Turkish regime in this part of the world. We have seen lately even the Turkish dictator Erdogan, I don't know how he managed to say that France's problem is Emmanuel Macron and he has to leave. So I think that there is a mutual concern for Egypt and France, because the stability in this region, especially in the Eastern Mediterranean, is now an explosive point for both Europe and the Middle East because of the gas fields, because of the Turkish aggression that taking place everywhere, land and sea, whether in Libya, whether in Syria, whether in Iraq, even in Nagorno-Karabakh. It's everywhere now, and even in Somalia they are present there. So I think that now we are trying to work with our allies. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi warned from the first day that we have to strengthen the relationship with Greece, Cyprus, and who are part of Europe, the European Union, and also France. I think that France is having hard times with Turkey now, and they need to work with special allies like Egypt.
Of course, we will be discussing this important issue in detail, as France in specific has called for more sanctions on Turkey regarding the Eastern Mediterranean issue, but regarding the other important issues on the agenda of the talks between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the French counterpart. How do you see them in general?
Well, I think that this visit is very important following the visit of the Minister of Foreign Affairs of France, Mr. Jean-Yves Le Drian, because we all know what took place recently in France concerning the cartoons and the disputes that took place inside France between the Muslim community and the French government. And the speech was given by President Emmanuel Macron at that time was not really welcomed by many people in the Muslim world. I think Egypt has the moderate vision. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is trying to explain to the Western world the sensitivity of such a speech to the Muslim world, and also he's trying to bring to the Muslim world the vision of the Europeans about this issue. Because I think that when President Macron gave his speech about Islam, I think he was trying to talk to the Muslim community there as he talks to all the religious communities there. So it's about what they call it the laïcité. It means that there is no religion in the society. It's the French Revolution, the principles of the Republic, that religion has to be put aside. Everyone has the right to criticize any religion as he wishes. So I think this was not reflected a bad vision about France outside France. But this speech was intended to the inside. So I think that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, he has a special role in that, in explaining Egypt's vision as hosting Al-Azhar, and also trying to understand the vision of a Western leader like Emmanuel Macron about this topic.
Yes, regarding the Middle East, what are the topics and the visions of both Egypt and France regarding the hot topics in the Middle East now?
Well, we have two boiling issues. It's Syria and Libya.
Yes.
And Libya, we all know that France participated in the ousting of Gaddafi during the presidency of Nicolas Sarkozy with the NATO forces. And now France is trying to deal with what's taking place as instability in Libya, interference from Turkey by sending mercenaries there. We have seen that there was a clash between the navy boats of France and Turkey, because Turkey was sending mercenaries into Libya. So because France is very, very worried about the immigration. Egypt worked a lot to prevent the illegal immigration. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, from the first day in office, he said to our partners in Europe, listen, your security is our security. We have to work together. If we will prevent terrorism, if terrorist groups in Libya, we will fight them, and we will try to work stability, into stability for the Libyan people. Many issues will be solved. I think our friends in Rome understood that, in France, in Berlin, and in Paris. So I think that now President Sisi is giving the assurances that if you want stability in the Middle East, stability in Libya, we can work together. And the proof of that, as it was said in the report, there is always military maneuvers between Egypt and France. France trusted Egypt about the Mistral. They don't sell arms to any countries except those who have specific doctrine of defense and fighting terrorism. That's why we got the Rafale, we got the Mistral, we got the FREM, we got many arms from France. And I think that this cooperation is for the security of the whole Mediterranean, for Europe and for the Middle East. The other issue is Syria. I think that now President Macron, when he visited Lebanon lately, he wanted to bring a new vision of France's foreign policy in this region. The Levant was always under the French mandate. There is a close relationship between Syria, Lebanon, and France culturally. So I think that now he understands, President Macron, that the fact that a country like Turkey, Turkey, is occupying parts of Syria like Idlib, this is a violation of the international law. We have to preserve the Syrian integrity and sovereignty and work for a solution there. So these are the main boiling points in the discussions.
We've seen hard stances by both presidents, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the French president, towards Turkey in Libya, more specifically in the past, and even regarding the Eastern Mediterranean dispute between Turkey, Cyprus, and of course Greece and Egypt, as we have seen the stances made by both presidents of Egypt and France. But do you think that we could be seeing another hard stance by the French president regarding the Turkish intervention in Libya, not just the Eastern Mediterranean?
I think that France is trying now to figure out who's winning inside Libya, whether it's a Raj government or General Marshal Khalifa Haftar. They are trying to figure out how things will go politically in the inside. The problem of Turkey's presence there is not only the mercenaries, that there is a government working for Ankara, and this government is accepting all the violation, that's very weird, accepting all the violation of the sovereignty of Libya. So France is very keen to find out a way how to manage to create a political atmosphere that will set the grounds for a unity of the government in Libya, which will ask Turkey to get out. And I think this would take place with the help of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, because fortunately we have many allies inside Libya. The Libyan people, they love Egypt. They want to work with Egypt. They trust Egypt millions of times more than they trust Erdogan. So I think that France is trying to negotiate who could be the solution inside Libya. But the main problem, which is Turkey, the mercenaries and the terrorist camps and the illegal immigrations, these are facts on the ground. And the only solution is to work with a strong ally, which is Egypt, because Tunisia, we all know there is instability there now. Algeria, they prefer not to intervene in any outside problems. So I think that the only partner in the Mediterranean was a strong diplomacy, strong army, and a strong leader who can, like President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who's trustworthy. We never blackmail the Europeans as Erdogan does. So there is a trust, there is a mutual...
and the honesty and the integrity.
Of course, when President Sisi gave his word at the beginning that we will fight together terrorism, but in respect of Egypt's sovereignty. For example, whenever there is some comments about human rights, as the French say it in Egypt, we stand strongly and we say these are internal issues in Egypt, as France has its own issues.
Yes.
They have to respect it, but we work together. We never blackmailed our European friends. We give them all the assurances that we will work together and work for a better atmosphere in the Mediterranean. I think also our friends in Greece, they know that Egypt now is reliable. Egypt is a strong ally defending their interests and the interests of Egypt.
Yes, speaking of the bilateral ties between Egypt and France, they are deeply rooted and they are dating back to 1798, 230 years of bilateral relations. How do you see the development of the bilateral relations between Egypt and France in the past few years, and more specifically under the tenure of President Sisi?
Well, I lived in France for many years, and the French people, since their early years in school, they study Egypt's history.
Yes.
And they love Egypt. And one of their passions.
There's always fascination about Egypt,
about the pharaohs and to visit Egypt. And they always, if they want to learn Arabic, they come to Cairo because they know this is the only place that they will have the classic Arabic. So, and we have seen the French universities here in Egypt, the French schools. They are rooted since the 20th century.
Historic.
Yeah, it's historic. So the French language was at the beginning till mid-1950s was part of the Egyptian citizen who speaks two languages, English and French. So I think that the French, there is, let's say, this love relationship between France and Egypt on the ground of culture, history, and also in politics, because I think that Egypt managed at a certain time, when we started the peace process in the 1970s, France stood with Egypt and defended Egypt's position, and the relations between President Mitterrand and President Mubarak and President Chirac and President Mubarak and Sarkozy, and then now with President Emmanuel Macron and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi are excellent. I think now the relations are more and more getting more stronger. Why? Because the fact that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is a charismatic president, and how he managed to break this this ice that was created in 2013 when Egypt had its revolution against the Muslim Brotherhood, and unfortunately Europe at that time was against us. He took the plane and he went to all the capitals in Europe and spoke frankly about Egypt's vision, and he created a new atmosphere. So I think that President Emmanuel Macron, he knows very well that President Sisi worked with his predecessor François Hollande, and he will work also with President, and that it will be continuity. And let me tell you that someone like the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jean-Yves Le Drian, he was Minister of Defense at the time of François Hollande when we got the Rafale and the Mistral, and now he is the Foreign Minister, and I think he has excellent relations with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. He's a very important figure in France. He's very influential, and he has also excellent relations with our Foreign Minister, Mr. Sameh Shoukry.
Yes, one of the files that are happening or happened in the past few weeks in the Middle East is also the issue of Lebanon and the issue of helping Lebanon through the conference that took place in the past few days with the participation of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the French President Emmanuel Macron. How do you see the visions of both nations regarding Lebanon and helping the nation in the near future?
Look, the crises in Lebanon are very complicated, and let's be frank, it's because of the presence of the Iranian influence. Yes. And I think that this is the issue that concerning all the Gulf states, not only Egypt. And we are trying to explain it also to our friends in Europe, that it's not the problem of the existence of Hezbollah, it's the problem about how Iran is trying to influence the stability of the Arab countries. And I think that France is understanding that now we have the candidate to become Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri is trying to form a government. And I think that he explained to the French government why things are getting slow, because things are not going well because of the pressure from Tehran. And I think that President Sisi is giving the same message also to the French and to all the Europeans, that we can work together to develop Lebanon. We have no problem about that. The second day when there was this, the 4th of August explosion,
blast, yes.
Egypt's presence were everywhere in Lebanon. We had our military aid there. We were an assistance for the French
doctors and field hospitals,
of course. And Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, went by himself the second day also. So that means that both countries, Egypt and France, have specific goal about not letting Lebanon fall, because it's not in the interest of anyone. It would be a total chaos. So I think that the French are now getting the message that there is an interior political problem in Lebanon, and it's about interference again, as like in Libya there is Turkey interfering, there is Iran interfering also in Lebanon. And I think it will take time. It will depend also about who will be in the administration in the United States, because we don't know. Until now, there is no official signs, but,
yes.
but we think that things will change for Iran dramatically, and this will affect Lebanon.
Do you think there will be the same sanctions applied on Iran as happened with the former president of the United States, Barack Obama?
Look, the equation changed dramatically last week after the assassination of Mr. Hassan Zadeh, who was the head of the scientific and nuclear research in Iran. This changed a lot in the Middle East, like the assassination of Soleimani, General Soleimani. So I think Iran now is figuring out to slow down or to go forward again. And according to that, to the Iranian decision, things will change in the Middle East. But I think
it's
that...
like a chess game.
Of course. But I think that if Joe Biden will be the president, I think that Saudi Arabia, Israel, Egypt, all the peace camp are not welcoming the politics of Tehran or in fueling Yemen, fueling situation in Syria, in Lebanon, and trying to destabilize other Gulf countries like Bahrain and the Emirates. Look what's going on with the Emirates in the Gulf. They're trying to disrupt the oil tankers going in and out from the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard is harassing everyone there. So I think that Joe Biden or the American administration or whatever, whoever will come, has to deal with the allies of America. And Europe now has to understand that all the Gulf states, including Egypt, are not welcoming the interference of Tehran in the politics of the Middle East.
Yes, speaking on the economic cooperation between Egypt and France, during the G7 summit in 2019, both presidents pledged to be having more economic cooperation in the upcoming years. We did see what happened in 2020 with the coronavirus pandemic sweeping all over the world, but how did you see those pledges being translated on the ground in terms of economic cooperation and boosting that?
Well, we are working in several domains now. We are working, for example, in the technology field, in the telecommunications, with the Eutelsat and all the satellites that we're engaging in. Because I think that it's not now, the economic relations is not only about goods now, it's about technology, it's about digital revolution. And I think that France is very present in Egypt's development in this field, especially in the new administrative capital. Egypt is trying to strengthen this relation because France has a huge experience in this field. So in addition to all that, we have built many cities now, whether in Matruh, whether in the sector of the Suez Canal. So there is huge fields of investment. I think that France needs new partners, strong partners, and I think Egypt is the perfect candidate.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there will be other areas of investment that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi will be presenting for the French possible investors in the future?
There was always the topic of agriculture investment because Egypt was always blocked by the restrictions of some conditions in the EU. And let's say fortunately and unfortunately, the coronavirus, when it took place, Europe was isolated at a certain time and some countries needed new goods from other countries. And now Egypt is preparing a new step to tell them we could export our agricultural products with new conditions. There is an important point is that Turkey was taking a very important space in the economic relations between Europe and especially with France. Now that is diminishing and slowly fading because the Turkish economy is in a disastrous situation now. Yes. I think Egypt now would be an excellent replacement because it's not only political, military and diplomatic ally, it's also a country developing its economy and it's booming. And this gives really the investor assurance that there is infrastructure, there is telecommunications, there is security, and there is law and order.
Yes, we will be having more information on the possible investments in terms of technology, in terms of even cultural expertise and exchange between Egypt and France in the upcoming report. So let's see it.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is visiting France for a 3-day official visit to meet his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron and discuss a host of issues of mutual concern. Egypt and France enjoy very strong historical and contemporary relations that date to centuries old. There has been remarkable dialogue, coordination and proximity in views on the issues influencing the security and stability of the Middle East region and Europe. Military deals have expanded starting in 2015 to also include Mistral helicopter carriers, Rafale fighters, multi-purpose frigates and more. In addition, joint military exercises have been taking place, such as the Cleopatra naval and urban exercises launched in 2017, the Nefertari air exercise, the Ramses military exercise and the Bright Star exercises comprised of multiple nationalities. Trade exchanges between Egypt and France reached 1.546 billion euros in the first 8 months of 2017, making an increase of 12% from the 1.38 million euros achieved during the same period last year. French investments in Egypt amount to 5 billion euros, representing through 160 companies, hiring 30,000 employees in the sectors of food manufacturing, construction, energy, telecommunications, retail, banking, programming, medicine, transportation and tourism. The top Egyptian exports to France are petrochemicals, liquefied petroleum gas, grains, citrus and vegetables. French companies have executed the Cairo Metro, launched the Nilesat satellites, installed a mobile phone network, restored the Suez cement factory, and constructed the Alexandria oil refinery, water supply stations in Fayoum and the 10th of Ramadan industrial zone, Terminal 3 at Cairo Airport and its radar, and electricity station in Tanta, among other projects. From 1974 through 2016, 40 cooperation protocols and agreements were signed between both countries in support of the economic development in Egypt. In 2016, 10 memoranda of understanding valued at 308 million euros were also signed. On a cultural note, French-Egyptian Egyptology institutes and laboratories have unveiled many archaeological discoveries. France also helped with renovating libraries, equipping museums, and collaborating in the fields of publishing, education, and scientific research. Egypt's Francophone population amounted to 2.8 million French speakers in 2010. It became a member state in the International Francophone Organization in 1983.
Welcome back. You're still watching the Daily Debate and an episode regarding the visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to France and the meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi that will be held with top French officials and, of course, the French counterpart Emmanuel Macron. We did see in the past report the Egyptian-French relations and the cooperation in different fields like technology, culture, even developing the metro lines, developing the airport here in Egypt. But I would like to ask about the defense relations between Egypt and France. As you've mentioned in the first part of the episode, there is cooperation, constant cooperation between Egypt and France in terms of acquiring new weapons and new arms. Speaking of the defense relations under President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, under his tenure, how do you see them with France?
First of all, France has to, because France is abiding also to the EU rules, they have to work with countries who work upon the rules of stability and security, not rogue countries. That's why the era of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi gave assurances that Egypt is a strong military partner. When we acquired the Rafale, it was very prestigious, not because we were selected for that. It's also because when I was there in France, I was told that the Egyptian pilots were excellent in the training. Usually the Rafale takes a few months for controlling all the systems. The Egyptian pilots took less than 2 weeks in working on it. And they said this was not a surprise because they know that Egyptians know how to deal with these kind of weapons, but it was technologically, it was very complicated, and how the Egyptian pilots were excellent in concentrating in guiding all these equipments. So this was a good sign for the French that they have a strong ally that will know how to use these weapons. Same thing for the Mistral. When we got it, we knew how to deploy it in the Middle East in a way to maintain security. And that's why France now is working with Egypt, not only in combating terrorism in Libya on the ground, because, let's say, now this kind of war is about special operations, about intelligence, so there is no really clear vision about what's taking on the ground. These are secret operations. But let's say what we see with our bare eyes is what's going on in the Mediterranean. The Navy, Egypt has an excellent Navy now, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is very keen that Egypt's role in the Mediterranean will be the security. We have heard, for example, a few days ago, there was the maneuvers between Egypt and our friends in Europe, in France and Greece. And one of the Turkish naval ships called Kamal Rais tried to go into the Egyptian sovereignty and military waters.
Yes.
And when it crossed it, Egypt naval forces gave the alarm. It's the international law that they should leave immediately, and they didn't leave. So it was in front of the eyes of the world. So immediately, the Egyptian ship rushed quickly to the target to destroy it, and then the Turkish naval forces just disappeared and couldn't stand. I think this in diplomacy is known that it's a kind of show of force and muscles. They wanted to test us in front of the French, in front of the Greeks, and see how Egypt will react. Well, we reacted swiftly, according to the international law, and this is the excellence of this way of dealing. We didn't open fire immediately. We waited until the international law rules are being applied. They don't answer it. You're in my waters. I have all the rights to fight back. So I think that's why we have excellent military cooperation. It's about that. And also about the satellites. We are engaging in military satellites that will help Egypt to fight terrorism in Sinai also, and the infiltration that coming from there.
Regarding the Turkish provocations in the Mediterranean and in the Middle East, how do you see the possible messages that could be sent out by both presidents regarding the meeting?
Well, the message is Turkey has to abide to the international law. If it's a rogue state, it has to, a rogue regime, it has to abide to the international law at the end of the day, because French forces, Egyptian forces are present. We will defend our economic zones. We will not give up for that. And I think that Erdogan, who is oppressing his own people and his own army, has no way to maneuver, whether it was Egypt or France, now in the Eastern Mediterranean. As I said, this was a test. He was trying to see our reaction and how we will deal with it. They disappeared from the zone, and I think that the message now is clear with this visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the meeting with President Macron, that it's not, because if it was about only economics, it would have been some envoys, but this meeting after these provocations is a strong message for Ankara that there will be harsh replies whenever the international law, and I precise the international law, will be violated by Turkey. We have all the right to answer swiftly, quickly, and with a lethal force.
Yeah, speaking of the harsh reply, do you think that certain decisions could be made by the European Union, for example, against Turkey, with the support of France, as we did see France calling in the past few weeks for more measures, for more decisions, for harsher decisions against Turkey, for the gas exploration drills taking place in the Mediterranean, the Eastern Mediterranean, and with support of Egypt as well?
Well, look, Greece is a part of the European Union.
Yes.
So I think that France is concerned whenever Greece's sovereignty is being violated, when the Greek islands are being surrounded by the Turkish Navy, when the airspace of Greece, which is European airspace, being violated. I think that now whole Europe is being violated. And I think that that means that Turkey is messing with the European Union. I understand the mentality of the Turkish regime. It's about their bargaining with the immigration, the refugees, and that they are part of NATO. Well, I think that NATO, even President Macron said it's dead clinically. And this was criticized by many, even in Germany, but it's true. He said it's dead critically because we have a handicapped part of the body of NATO, which is Turkey. So he said how we will fight Turkey if we have an alliance with this aggressor. So I think now things will change dramatically. France is respecting NATO, but when it comes to its sovereignty, it comes to its security, working with Egypt is the ultimatum, and they will do it. And I think that now the message is very clear for the Turkish regime that you're dealing with Egypt, France, Greece, Cyprus. If they are trying to mess with any of these countries, I think that Europe, which is France and Greece, we will have all Europe against Turkey.
Speaking of the other meetings that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi will be holding in France, he will be meeting with the French foreign minister, as he did in early November in Egypt here. How do you see the talks going back and forth in Egypt in November and in France in December?
Well, diplomatically, I think that Egypt needs now some support, especially about a new case, which is the Ethiopian barrage. I think that the dam that was being built, the Renaissance Dam, I think that we have to acquire international support for our case. We are explaining to France, because we are going to the International Court, we are going to the UN Security Council, we are talking to every peaceful means, about peaceful means. So I think that we are explaining also our case, that we have to defend our rights, our sovereignty in the Nile waters. So this would be one of the issues, because France will defend Egypt's position whenever our sovereignty in the Nile will be threatened.
How can that defense be translated on the ground, specifically in Europe and the rest of the world?
Well, first of all, it's the media. The media. I think that the media in the West will try to find out what is going on in Ethiopia. Unfortunately, we are seeing the massacres committed by the government there against the Tigray part. So we are all concerned. Africa is very important for France.
Yes.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, when he went to South Sudan, I think the message was also clear. His both visit to France and to South Sudan, and the military maneuvers with Sudan was the first in history between both countries. I think that we are giving strong messages that we are in a small world, we are in the same backyard, and what will influence Egypt will influence everyone. So I think that in the media they will work about it. If we will ever go to the Security Council, they will also be there for us for any international mediation. And of course we are trying to explain to the Europeans that the situation inside Ethiopia is very critical. The people are not happy with the government there. Many problems are taking place. And I think that at a certain time, the Europeans have to use their influence to tell the regime there to find a solution to keep peace inside Ethiopia and outside Ethiopia with us and its neighbors.
Yes, Doctor, you've mentioned the visits made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to South Sudan. That was a historic visit, the first by an Egyptian president and an Arab leader. How do you see that? What is the importance of it and the timing of it as well?
Well, the timing is, first of all, that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is going by himself there. Of course, this was very honoring for the government there, which experienced, unfortunately, many difficulties. But we mediated in peace between the factions, the rival factions. General Abbas Kamel, the head of the intelligence, was present every time there were negotiations. We managed to create this kind of peace. We built a medical center, a huge medical center in Juba. So I think that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, when he made this visit, is very clear to Ethiopia also, that we have strong allies in this region. We have very, very clear vision about what's taking place. We would not like to see any ethnic cleansing inside Ethiopia, because every part of Africa is also a part of us as Africans, and we do not wish to see any ethnic cleansing that like what is taking there in the Tigray. So if any help will be asked at any time, we have friends everywhere to deploy our, let's say, our diplomatic means on the ground.
In the same week, or in the past week, in the middle of it, we did see another meeting between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Cairo. The importance of such a visit and the timing of it, specifically with the latest developments regarding the whole of the Arab world and not just Palestine.
Well, the message was clear. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi told President Mahmoud Abbas that, look, Egypt is prepared to be the broker of peace between Israel and the Palestinians again. I think this is a renewed message. Unfortunately, at a certain time, the Palestinians were refusing to listen to Egypt's vision about that. But now, when the Gulf states are signing peace treaties with Israel, Sudan is signing a peace treaty with Israel. We heard about some rumors about collaboration between Saudi Arabia and Israel about that. We're not certain about it, but let's say the atmosphere is about peace. I think that the message is very clear for the Palestinian authorities. There is no way to waste time anymore. Lots of occasions were lost since 1977 when the peace talks between Israel and Egypt started and the Camp David Accords, and through the era of President Mubarak also at the Oslo Peace Accords. We always said we are present there to defend the Palestinians at any time. But unfortunately, when there was this split between Gaza and Ramallah, and then Gaza, the Hamas started working with Turkey, with Qatar, with Tehran, with Iran, I think things went out of control. And now I think that the message is very clear by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Egypt, still present as it was in 1977, is still now in 2020 and 2021. We are very clear. We want peace. We will stand by the Palestinians. Still, there is time to maintain any land for the Palestinians. I hope that the Palestinians will accept Egypt's mediation before it's too late. I think that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he respects very highly, he looks very highly to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, because now Egypt is a strong country, strong diplomacy, and a peace guarantor. So I think now the situation is very relieving for the Palestinians. The Emirates, the Bahrain, and even Sudan, they're all now trying to prepare for a peaceful era, and now Egypt is telling them, come to the Arab side again, don't listen to Turkey, don't listen to Iran, listen to us, as we have done with our brothers in Iraq. We're telling them, join the Arab umbrella again, come and work with us, we are working with you till the last chance.
And this proves what you have said in the first part of the program, Dr. Cherif AMIR, that Egypt is the link between Europe, between Africa, between the Middle East, as in the space of 8 or 9 days, 3 important meetings taking place between the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the presidents of South Sudan, and then Palestine, and then France. How do you see the future of, as you mentioned right now, peace in the region with those diplomatic efforts of President al-Sisi?
I think that it has 2 phases. The first one is about security and strong presence in this region. Unfortunately, the Middle East, let's call it a nasty background. It's volatile. As you see, a country like Turkey sending ships into another country's sovereign waters. This is not a respectful act. So we have to present to the world both faces of the same coin, that we are strong to defend security and defend geopolitical interests, but in the same time, peace, and those 2 parts cannot work without a personality, strong personality, except like people like President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, because he's a leader. Like I said, he gives his word, and it's very respected outside Egypt. As he's doing here in Egypt, when there is a project, he wants a timetable. So he has the same mentality working outside. We have to work for peace. And I will give my word about 1, 2, 3 these points. And sovereignty, Egypt's sovereignty is a red line. It's very clear now. So I think he will be an excellent peace mediator, because I think that the Gulf states need Egypt now more than ever, because I know that Iran and Turkey will play the card of collaboration with Israel. They are collaborating with Israel since years ago, but in secret, and fueling wars. They never went with their armies, but we fought with our sons in the wars, and we paid a heavy price. So I think now peace, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is from the prestigious military institute. He knows that war is something that will cost a lot. It's the last option, and we have to work always for peace. That's why he understands very well that working with all our brothers in the Arab world and our partners in Europe could lead to, I won't say eternal peace, but to a certain peace agreement that will block Iran and Turkey from interfering and fueling the situation.
Yes, Dr. Cherif AMIR, the Professor of International Relations. Thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you. Thank you.
And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.